Trying to play our video. There, where's our logo? There it is.
There it is. Oh yeah, great start. What is up, everybody? It is time to podcast.
Survivor Buffs. That's who we are. We're joined today by Doug, more commonly known as Eager Turtle from YouTube. If you in your life have ever seen a Survivor compilation or best of video, good chance, probably a 9 out of 10 chance it was on Eager Turtle's channel. Good chance you're probably already a subscriber, but if not, obviously go over to his channel and check it out. Today we are going to go one by one, talk about all 20 contestants of season 40, Winners at War, and talk about their legacy kind of coming in, with their legacy that, or, obviously a lot of their legacies may have changed, some for the better, some for the worse with season 40. But we're going to talk about the legacies they've left behind over the last 20 years. And also we're going to talk about where we think our expert opinions are.
We are experts.
Yes. We're not only buffs, we're also experts.
Yeah.
We are going to talk about where we think all 20 contestants, what their future is on the show, if any. I feel like there's some people retired, some people that could be back pretty soon, some people that may come back, but only in like a limited capacity, or maybe back in might take a couple years off. So we're going to go through them all one by one. Anyone want to throw anything out there? Did I try to keep the intro a bit quick because we got a lot of stuff to go through? But did I miss anything? Everyone having a good day? How's everyone doing?
Fantastic.
I'm good.
I'm enjoying the sweet American northern air.
Awesome. Okay, I only wanted my name to be that at the beginning, so let me change my name. Okay.
I'm not changing mine. Let's go.
All right. So I'm going to share my screen so you can see who we're talking about. Okay, first we're talking about. So obviously Natalie was the first one eliminated, but she, of course, came back into the game and almost won it. But Amber was the first eliminated that did not return. So she's going to be the first person we talk to. Amber obviously played in Australia. I believe she came in sixth. And then she came in All-Stars, which she won, the first ever Survivor All-Star season, first returnee season. So quite an interesting legacy that she has. She's kind of one of those people who no one seems to – it's very – what's the word? Polarizing? I don't know. Controversial? I don't know. Some people say she's underrated. Some people say she's overrated. I don't know. Doug, why don't we start with you? What are your thoughts on Amber kind of post, what was her career like coming into Winners at War? What was your perception of her?
I think she had a good game in All-Stars and was able to play the social aspect, which Rob didn't do, which allowed her to win.
Mm-hmm.
But I think Winners at War showed that while she seemed like a great person, she's probably not cut out for the modern game Survivor.
Mm-hmm.
So, great person, but I don't really see her coming back.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree. I don't see Amber coming back. Like you said, she did what needed to be done in All-Stars as far as it goes with Rob, and kind of not piggybacking off of him, because she definitely dictated moves in All-Stars with Rob, but Rob did a lot of the strategic heavy lifting, and that really showed in Winners at War.
Yeah, it was one of those situations where coming into Winners at War, I think it was more split on Amber. It was pretty half, she's an underrated, like she deserved to win All-Stars. Half of the people were like, oh, coattails, terrible in Australia. Shouldn't have won All-Stars. So Winners at War, I think, made a lot of people sort of switch over to the latter half of that, because she almost didn't. I don't want to say she didn't seem like she was trying because that's harsh, but I just don't know if this. I don't know. Like you said, Doug, I just don't know if she's the type of person to win, especially in a new school season. So I agree. I think there was a 10% chance she would ever have come back before Winners at War, and that chance happened. I think that's the only capacity she would ever come back, because if it was like an all winners thing and she was there playing with her husband. And now I think zero. In fact, like looking at the other 19, Amber might be the one where she's up there as far as the ones I think there's no chance she'll ever come back. Do you guys think there's any chance Amber comes back for any capacity?
Maybe an old school versus new school season. It could potentially be old school.
Yeah.
Because of the way she played. And I think there's also the idea that she didn't really get the opportunity to play in Winners at War because it's hard to tell if she was voted out because of anything she actually did or just because weakening Rob on the other tribe. So I guess you could see it as another opportunity to prove herself.
One other thing, too, is she has 4 kids now. And I think it was really hard for her to leave her 4 kids for that period of time. And now those kids are, in the future, those 4 kids are going to be high school and then eventually college. So, like, the only point I could see her leaving her kids behind would be at the point where they're, like, all, like, past college adults. And that's going to be, like, 15, 20 years from now. So, I'm hoping, obviously, knock on wood, Hope Survivor's still on the air. But, at that point, at that point, we might have an old school, a new school, a third school. We might have 4 different schools. So, at that point, if it's like a battle of the eras, if we only have a couple people per era, is Amber the one they're going to be calling for the early era? And she won the first All-Star season, so we'll see. But
I mean, pretty much right after they won All-Stars, Amber was already talking off camera about wanting to settle down with the family when they were on The Amazing Race. Like she said like multiple times, like, I love that we're in the public eye right now, but I'm ready to settle down and have a family. So I think she's doing just that.
Yeah. Moving on to Dani Boatwright, someone who in my opinion, one of the biggest surprises when they announced the Winners at War cast. I was happy to see her because I thought her Guatemala game was a little underrated. It was so weird at Winners at War. It was like I felt like she started off strong. Like, it felt like she was playing a good game. She got in, she had an alliance. She was with the old school people, even though they were, outnumbered, 6-5, I guess, after the first. No, I guess Natalie was eliminated. So I guess the old school people had the numbers, and it just seemed like she flipped on Rob early on. And it was like she just decided to play too hard, too strong, and it came across in the edit as
she went off the rails.
That she just kind of what are you doing? You had it. You were in a great position.
I want to defend Dani in this moment.
Okay.
I have a video on my channel, which is the real reason Dani was voted out.
Oh, okay.
And she was turned on by Parvati and Rob as a sacrificial lamb because they knew about it at bottom. And so Dani's moves were trying to save her in that moment because she knew she was already on the outs. But the show portrayed it as Dani's paranoid, making crazy moves. So I don't think the show presented her exit fairly, which tarnished her reputation a bit.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I feel like they came into Winners at War with okay, this I think they came into Winners at War thinking, okay, we need someone to fill this role. We need someone to fill this role. And I think they wanted someone to fill that role as the new school player who was playing with all of his idols, and he was starstruck, and he kept getting nervous, and Nick, who's so not that type of person, kind of got edited into that role. And then Wendell, who is an introverted guy, is a super sweet, amazing person, and he kind of got put into this petty and villainous person. It's just I think that everyone at Winners at War, because they realized the spotlight they were on is the greats, they wanted to really put on their best selves, and the Survivor editors just weren't having it. So they needed people to kind of fill those roles a bit. And yeah, that very well could happen with Dani. So, I it's unfortunate if it did tarnish her legacy a little bit because like I said, I always thought her win in Guatemala was one, a little underrated. Two, it was my first season that I like remember watching. So it like, always has a place in my heart that Dani was like my first winner that I like remember watching. I don't think she's coming back again. I don't know if it's as strong a no as Amber, but I could see her coming back as sort of like I need to fix my reputation sort of thing. So I think if Dani would come back, I think that would be a person who could be like a battle of the eras. Because I don't want to say new school and old school at this point because, by the time they do that season, I think we're going to have not just old and new. I think it's going to be era. So I wouldn't mind seeing Dani back, but I would lean more towards no. But what do you guys think? Is she coming back or is she done so?
I think she's done so.
Yeah.
I think she's very likely done.
Yeah. Yeah. That stinks. It stinks, but that's.
I was surprised she got
this is
shot
the
in
way.
the first place.
Yeah.
It's
For
a
sure.
wall.
Ethan was the next voted out. Giddy, I know you just got to talk to Ethan a little bit with the game you played. So any insider, any scoop, any insider knowledge? Did you learn?
He's definitely not coming back. I can confirm. I mean, if this is cheating a little bit, but I talked to him. But yeah, he's not gonna come back. He didn't really even like being on Winners at War. He was pretty disappointed with his performance, but I mean, obviously he had great moments, and he was happy that a lot of that got shown, especially with the log challenge. That was a great moment on the show. But overall, Ethan's not coming back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with your fact. I was going to say, I agree with your opinion because I think it's just a fact. I don't think Ethan is, from what I hear, he's
Who
not
knows?
even.
Maybe he'll change his opinion, but what I've heard from his own mouth is no.
I mean, I heard he's even taken a step back from like doing interviews and like being on podcasts. So like if he's taken that big of a step back, right after Winners at War, then I think the likelihood of him coming back. Plus, like I said, you got to think with these old schoolers, it's just can they handle playing what Survivor has turned into? Because it's still Survivor, but it's clearly such a different game from it was the first 5 or 6 years. So I don't know. Doug, you kind of in the same boat?
I haven't heard of the interview where he said he wouldn't come back. But I thought he was one of the old schoolers who had a good chance because he.
It was an interview. It was a personal conversation.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's probably why. Because he kind of
it hasn't aired yet. So yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I think he showed a lot more personality in Winners at War than we saw in his in All Stars in Africa. So it was kind of. I could have seen him easily come back if he wanted to.
Yeah, I think he's got a bit more like camera friendly over the years. He's done so many interviews, and he's just gotten older. He's met he's a world traveler at this point. So I think his confidence on camera has grown, which allowed for his personality to be shown a little bit more. But plus, I think you got to think too with Ethan is the health issues. I mean, I know he's. Beaten cancer. What was it, once or twice? But
twice,
obviously, even though he beat cancer, there's lingering health issues that those battles have left, and I think that Winners at War took such a toll out of him that like I just don't know if physically his body would allow it to come back. I wouldn't mind seeing Ethan back for another one. I think he would be.
Oh yeah, I love Ethan.
Great for an old school, new school, or battle of the eras. But. Okay, this next one I think is going to be the most interesting one because I think there's a chance that we might all be in the same boat. There's a chance all three of us might be completely disagreeing on this one. So I'm super interested to talk about this next one, and it is Boston Rob Mariano. So, anyone want to go first? I want to hear what you guys have to say first. I mean, I don't think there much needs to be said about his legacy. I mean, he played.
I want to say he tarnished his legacy, though.
He played the most, and he. See, I don't think his legacy was hurt in the slightest.
With When Is That War?
I don't think so at all.
I think he kind of showed that he couldn't be adaptable.
He was like a caricature of himself in his boot episode. The whole buddy system on steroids.
Yeah,
it was
I know.
Like,
I didn't.
He was a comedy character.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there was any way that he could win the game. Even if he played a great game and made it to the end, I think no one would have voted for him just because they're like, we did not want this guy to win again. To be like, people already considered him kind of like the GOAT coming into this season. So
if you let Boston Rob go to the end, then he probably deserves it, though. I mean, if you're on the jury, how do you let that happen?
Yeah,
because he's got the biggest target in history. Probably not as big as Tony's now, but still might be. Still, I don't know.
I mean, I do love that he stuck to who he is. I mean, and just all of his what are they called? Edge of Extinction challenges. It was cool to watch him like really fight through a lot of those and never give up. Even that one challenge when he lost, and was he the one that still kept
going. Yeah,
even after he lost it. That was cool. Which is
that was a good moment.
He's an extreme competitor, and for all of those for the two Edge of Extinction battle back in, he was always right there for both of them. And even with being, I don't even think he didn't use an advantage the first one. If he did the second time, it was like one, whereas like a lot of people had multiple. Now you had like the max you were allowed to play or whatever. But so here's the question: what will he ever come back? I'm interested to hear what you guys think about this one.
I think he will.
Okay.
Even though he said he wouldn't. I don't believe him. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he said somewhere and on the show too, like, pretty much either hardly hinting that he's, putting up the boots. I still don't believe him just because he's Boston Rob. Mm-hmm. And I part of me is always like, it's Boston Rob. I feel like if they ask him to come back, he's still going to come back.
Would it just be like a once more? Like, what capacity would you see him coming back? Because I think he will also come back, but
it would have to be a legend. It would have to be a legend season.
See, I think Survivor. I think Survivor, when they know it's going to be their last season, they're going to go all out and do like best of the best, battle of the eras. Like they're not just going to make the last season like Blood versus Water 3 or like an all newbie. Like they're gonna go all out and do something extra for the.
I could also see him playing a Blood versus Water with his daughters as well, though.
Well, by the time his daughters are old enough, though, I mean they're like 4, right?
No, he's got some that are in their preteens.
Oh, well, even when it's at least it's got to be at least like 8 or 9 years before they can play. Is he still going to be cool to play at 8, 9 years?
Oh yeah, I think so.
So, Doug, what do you think? Are we seeing?
Well, he works at construction. He stays in shape.
Are we seeing Boston Rob come
back?
If
he's doing hard labor in construction, his body will be torn to shreds very early. So,
yeah,
I think Jeff will always fight for him to play again. So if Rob wants to, he has a spot. And he'll be better off probably not on a legend season. I think he showed in Winners at War that his gameplay is like controlling the troops and masterminding things.
Yeah.
He can't seem to play another way. So playing another legend season will probably have the same result as Winners at War, where he's voted out early.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. That's a good point, but I would hope that he would learn that doesn't work. If he's that stubborn, then my opinion of him changes a lot. But maybe in his head obviously in his head he thought he could control people. And then I guess, when you see your name written down 3 times and you get sent home, then maybe that was the moment that he realized, maybe I shouldn't have tried to rob these people who are actually decent players. Maybe not everybody's Philip Shepard. Well.
He did ban hero versus villains when he
It was working. It was working.
It was working in Winners at War for a little bit as well.
Which was surprising.
Yeah. So our next one is Sandra. Here's the thing with Sandra. I think she would for sure come. I know she said I'm retired, never coming back. I think Sandra for sure would. I don't think Survivor would invite her back. And again, unless it's like the final season, greatest of all the goat season, whatever they're going to call it. That's the only thing I could possibly see them invite her back. But if that's 10,
you don't feel like people are Sandra'd out? You don't think people are Sandra'd out?
I think there's not in total. No, I think it's very split. I think there's a lot of love for Sandra out there and people who would love to see her still play. I'm not in that. Yeah, I mean I'm Sandra'd out, but I think and again, like you got to think is when would that final season be? Like, would they cap it at 50 or are they still going to go with 75? So I mean, if I had to guess, I would say Sandra's done. But I think that's more of Jeff. Jeff is Sandra'd out at this point. But what do you think, Doug? Where are we at with Sandra?
Like, what else does she have to bring to the show? Like, she was kind of doing the same things in Winners at War and Game Changers, like being snarky and repeating the Queen stays Queen, like every 2 sentences she said that at least once. Yeah. So it's like, what else can she really do?
Yeah. Even as she was raising the flag.
The Queen stays Queen as I'm quitting the game.
Yeah.
Queen leaves Queen.
Yeah. Sure. Did Winners at War hurt her legacy at all? I think not in the slightest.
Really?
Not in the slightest. I don't think it helped.
Quit?
See, I don't consider it a quit. I'm in the boat where I don't call it a quit. I mean, she had 0% chance of. She got voted out of the game. You know, Survivor, the show, the season, they left that option open that once you're voted out, part of the game is you don't have to go to Edge of Extinction if you don't want to. She was, utilized. She chose not to utilize part of the game as opposed to leaving before she got voted out or leaving before she realized she couldn't win. And let's be honest, there was a 0% chance she was going to come back from Edge of Extinction. Like, she probably would have never got any advantages, never would have found any fire tokens. Once she got voted out, there was 0% chance of her winning. So what did she quit? She quit. She gave up starving for 10 days. That's what she gave up. So if you wouldn't have given up starving for 10 days, then I don't consider it a quit. So because of that, I don't think her legacy was hurt. And
I'm a believer in the puncher's chance, dude. Everybody has a puncher's chance. So I still think it's a quit.
Wrong.
There's no point staying around if you have no chance of getting back, really. And
it could have been a puzzle. It could have been a puzzle only.
She's horrible at puzzles.
I hate you, Adam. Dude,
she's going against Boston Rob, probably the greatest puzzle challenge guy ever. Nick Wilson, who's probably the second best, greatest, puzzle maker ever. Like she's not only would she have to beat 16 other people to make it there.
It could have been who yells the loudest. It could have been. You don't know. You just don't.
Tyson's got a loud voice.
Okay, move on. She quit. I don't care. I'll never change my opinion. If you still have the opportunity to get back in the game and you forfeit it, it
wasn't an opportunity. It was an opportunity.
She quit.
Tell me this: what % chance did she have to make it back in the game?
Less than 1.
Okay, moving on to Parvati. I think Parvati is another 0% chance.
She's done, yeah. She's done.
I don't think I think Winners at War. I don't think anyone's legacy was tarnished with Winners at War. Nick maybe, but I don't know if anyone's legacy. legacy was just like absolutely. Wendell was close, especially the old schoolers. Like there's some that got hurt. They're like, why did I do this? Parvati is maybe a little bit because it seemed like it was like waves with her because like when she first started, she was doing great. She was talking to everyone. She was relating to everyone with like the parent thing. Like she was doing fine at the beginning, and then she kind of fell into that boat of like sort of I don't want to say being a coattail rider, but kind of like super laid back, like to the point where it's like, is she even playing? Then she found that idol nullifier. She was sort of getting in there with Nick because the whole thing with like Nick being such a big Parvati fan, and she like didn't even offer him. You know, she had these tools and like didn't use them. And then on the edge, at first on the edge, it was like she didn't even want to be there. And then she found that one thing with Natalie, the extortion thing, and seemed like, okay, Parvati's finally playing the game, the Parvati we all missed. And then it was like she was gone again. It was like kept coming in waves. So, you know, I don't know if that was just the editors or what, but
probably was the edit, just because that's the reason I hate Edge of Extinction is it eventually is just so many different storylines you can't really highlight every person in one episode because you're still dealing with 20 people in a 45-minute episode. And the Edge only gets like 7 minutes of the episode. So I mean, Parvati.
And here's the thing,
obviously was great, and she didn't play a terrible social game, but
and here's the thing with Parvati compared to those other people.
Help.
I don't think Parvati has as big of an ego as like a Rob and a Sandra. So I don't think she would feel the need to return. Like if they do a best of, let's say they end at 50 and like we're doing a best of the best. I feel like Sandra would be like, "Give me on that season." Rob would be like, "Oh, whatever, give me on that season." But I feel like Parvati at this point is like, let them battle it out. Like, let them. I think she's settled. Like she's happy with where her placement is amongst the Survivor greats. I don't think she needs any more confirmation. I don't think she has any more to offer. But what do you think, Doug? Are we going to see Parvati again?
Yeah, I think personally she won't see a reason to come back. I think even at Winners at War, we kind of saw that she felt maybe afraid to tarnish her legacy, so she didn't like push herself out there and try to make big moves when she had things to use to try and do something. Kind of stayed back a bit.
Yeah.
Probably similar to like Amber as well, where like she has a kid now and she's at a different like stage in life and doesn't really want to come back and play Survivor again.
Yeah, I agree. Yule is next. Another surprise, probably to me. I think Dani and Yule were the two biggest surprises. And Amber maybe is the third. Glad we saw him. Of all the new school people, he's probably adapted the best, in my opinion. I mean, I think he made it further than any other new school people, if I'm not mistaken, of the old school people.
Yeah, he played a good game, especially for how it was just a freaking crucifixion of every old school player.
But still,
and I feel like he needed one more day. Like if he would have made it past that where he got voted out, where what was it, Nick switched on him?
Yeah, I mean the tribe swap into those three tribes hurt my soul.
Yeah,
wasn't it that like Nick and Michelle and Wendell had a pre-game alliance basically?
Yes, and he was screwed. Yeah, he got screwed by it.
Yeah, and they don't really like to touch on pregame alliances in the edit that much because they can't show it. They can't show it form and develop, so they just kind of pretend like they don't exist. But yeah, so it looked like, oh, Wendell is with the numbers here, and he just was not. But if he would have made it past that vote, like let's say it's because it should have been, according to the edit, Michelle that went home that day. It should have been Michelle. If that was true, then they would have merged the next episode, and he would have been linked with what it was like Nick, or no, not. It was definitely Nick, Sophie. He had a couple people tight with him in his alliance, and Sophie had an idol. So if he would have made it past, I think he would have. So I think even though Yule didn't make the merge, I think this season actually helped his legacy because he didn't like make it to the end, but he showed he could still swing it with new school better than all the other old school. But I think there's no chance he comes back.
He played great, and shoot, I would love to see him again. But do I think he will come back? No.
Yeah. What do you think, Doug? Do you think any chance we see him again?
He definitely showed that he has like the chops to hang in there with the new school players. So that would be helpful. And I feel like he showed a lot more like a wholesome, happy, nice guy side than we saw in Cook Islands, where he was a bit more robotic the whole season.
Yeah.
So he's better. I think he was better TV, similar to Ethan. Like he's just grown over the years and has a better camera presence.
Yeah, I agree. I'd love to see him back, but I just think he gave up a lot to come back out there again. And unless it was a season where he's like, I have a good chance, I just don't think he would come back.
Yeah.
I would love to see him if it was like a GOAT season. But by the way, when I say GOAT, obviously I'm referring to like
we are referring to greatest of all time, not my idea for a season.
Yeah.
The GOATs versus GOATs, like greatest of all time versus like actual GOATs.
Yeah.
Okay.
With, like,
That'd be cool.
That would be cool.
Yeah. Moving on, we got Wendell.
Spice things up, baby.
We kind of already touched on him before. Obviously, Wendell, man, probably the most tarnished. Him and Nick really had the most tarnished legacies, which sucks too because I guess if they were going to hurt anyone, it would be someone who's like kind of fresh in our minds as opposed to like someone we've held near and dear in our hearts, like a Boston Robert Parvati for decades. Now it feels like. I think that not much of his game was showed, so it's so hard to tell if he played a good game or not. I mean, he made it to the merge, right? He was the merge boot.
He was a merge boot, yeah.
I think Wendell is a lock to come back. One, because of course he had to be a little upset with Survivor with how they portrayed him. But at the end of the day, when you come into the show being a fan and what the producers tell you to expect, you have to know that, that's what the show is. Like they can't just show you gameplay. They have to edit it to show you your heroes, to show you your villains, to show you your outcasts, to show you your loners, your bullies. That's what the show is. You have to accept that there's a chance you could be edited into a role that might not be who you perceive yourself as or are. Like in Wendell's case, he isn't really that person. But with that being said, I think he's upset, but not like, oh, I'm never coming on the show again. They ruined my legacy. I don't think that's Wendell at all. If anything, I think he would be the type of person to come back and prove them wrong. Be like, this is who I really am. And he's been relatively not to look too much into like the politics behind it, but with everything going on, Wendell's been relatively reserved in it's I feel like a lot of, especially with like season 39 and just kind of like cancel culture and all this stuff, I feel like a lot of survivors who want to play again are being very careful with everything they say in an interview, everything they tweet, everything they put on their Instagram that they're doing. Wendell hasn't really done anything.
Put his voice out there quite a bit about like people of color and survival.
Yeah.
And the way his edit was when there's a war seemed a bit coded. He talked about that quite a lot.
If you watch his interview with the Survivor specialist, he touches on that a lot.
Yeah, and if you look at his tweets and his stuff like that, when he talks about diversity in Survivor, he does it in a very like positive way. Like, I appreciate some of the things they've done so far. I feel like there's a plan to make things even better. I'm excited for the future. When he talks about that sort of stuff, it's coming from a place of like, I appreciate what they've done so far. There's room to grow. It's positive. He's being very optimistic about the future, whereas there's a lot of other survivors who aren't afraid to really clamor down on how angry and frustrated they are with either the edits they got or the edits people of color have gotten. So I don't want to say he's being reserved because he doesn't want to not get invited back on the show, because
he just goes about it in a peaceful way, which is I mean, I listen to him. Hopefully other people do too.
I think he's like a kind of introvert guy, so he does express his opinion. He's just not somebody who's going to go out there and like yell in a soapbox about what he thinks.
Yeah.
But that shouldn't be like mistaken for not caring. He still cares about that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
If you would ask me if there's one guy who I think, if there was 19 people on season 20 that would never come back, but if I had to pick one guy I think would, it would probably be Adam Klein. This, and I feel like somehow I've said this on every podcast we've done so far.
Yeah, we always talk about Adam. We always find a way to talk about Adam.
and I'll say it again. I somehow was more impressed with him on this than I was on his winning season. Not that I wasn't impressed on his winning season, but like he was the star of the show pre-merge of Winners at War. Like he had the most screen time, most confessionals. The narrative of the episodes a lot of times was being driven by him and in his interactions with Boston Rob on that was it the Call Tribe or Cele? I can't remember which one was which. I want to see Adam play again, and
I want to see Adam, and he's active, and I think he'll come back just because of those two reasons as well.
Yeah. What are you thinking here, Doug?
Yeah, I think he kind of was very fun to watch because he would kind of have these chaotic like blow-ups and kind of stuff himself up, but then he would be able to like save himself because he's actually a good game player. That was interesting to watch because I feel like we saw a bit of that in Millennials vs Gen X, like around the merge, especially where he would like talk to Taylor about whatever and then kind of have to save himself afterwards. But this kind of chaotic blow up and save himself was like the center point of Winners at War and Emerge. So I think people wanted to see him come back, and he has something to offer.
Yeah, for sure. I know Chris mentioned this on his International Survivor podcast on this channel, which you should check out if you're not already watching this video right now. But Adam is such a fan of International Survivor. If they ever, now that Australian Survivor is owned by CBS, if they ever were to do like a battle of Australian versus US or throw South Africa or maybe New Zealand in there, I think Adam has to be one of the first names that pops up to represent US. So that would be a cool season to see him in. But I think we'll see him back in the next 5 years. So we got Tyson next. Let's start with you, Gideon, since he's like your godfather.
Tyson. If they ask him to come back, he'll come back. I can say that much.
Okay. What? Even if it was like soon? Even if it was soon?
Kids, but
yeah.
I don't know if he'd come back for I think he'd come back for a big season, or you know, it doesn't have to be Legends, but it has to be something returnees like. But if they ask him to come back, he's stated multiple times, Survivor's my job. I'll do it. I'll come back as many times as they ask. And he's serious when he says that.
Yeah, I haven't talked to him personally. Gideon has. But the vibe I got was he would, is the same thing, that he would come back. I also think it would kind of have to be like, their best of the best season, battle of the eras, which would be cool because Tyson has now played in, Token Sheens, which we kind of see as kind of like the finale of old school Survivor. But then you have Blood versus Water, which was like kind of like the return of the kind of like what brought us out of the dark ages, and when he won that. And now Winners at War, which is like kind of like the end of what we're seeing as the new school era. So it's weird that he's not only been in every era except for like the classic era. But he's like shown, and he was in Heroes and Villains, which is like, considered like the greatest season. So like he's been featured in so many different, like it's almost like you can see Tyson's evolution in Survivor, and it's almost kind of mirrored with the evolution of the show itself. So that's super cool to have been a witness to. So I agree. I think he'd come back if it would be in some sort of like greatest of the greats season in the future. But you kind of in the same boat, Doug?
Yeah, I think he could come back, but I'm not really sure. Like, he's kind of not going to do anything super interesting, I don't think. He's played the game. I think he's not super in touch with the new school exactly. Like, he won Blood vs. Water with a bunch of players who played old school, like Tina and Jervis and Iris. So I don't think he's exactly a new school player.
Oh, he definitely plays old school. Yeah.
Yeah. So it might be difficult in the modern game.
Yeah, I agree. Moving on to Sophie, another person I was a little surprised to see. Probably the person who improved upon their legacy the most, at least, or maybe at least there was a couple players who people considered underrated winners. Who now, when you watch their gameplay at Winners at War, you're like, oh wow, we were wrong. Maybe Michelle might be the other person in that boat, but I think Michelle and Sophie were the two people that was like, wow, we were wrong. Now, there for sure were plenty of Sophie Clark stands out there. She has quite a following, especially in like the Survivor Reddit community. I feel like I see a Sophie Clark appreciation post at least once a day on there. So I don't know. I feel like Sophie left on such like an idol. You were in a power position.
I think she said she's not coming back.
Oh, okay. All right, moving on. No.
I was watching an interview with her, and I'm pretty sure she said she's not coming back. I
don't think she would, because I feel like
I believe her. I don't know, but
because here's the thing: she won the game against
the greatest of all time coach.
An okay cast. I mean, one of the greatest characters the show has ever seen, one of the greatest challenge beasts the show has ever seen. Cochran. Not Cochran for challenge beast, and Cochran. And then she came into Winners of War, didn't make it to the end, but held her own, proved a lot of people wrong, changed her game, improved upon her game, became more charismatic, was more fun to see. Obviously, when Kim opened up to her about her idol, like she didn't just pick someone eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Like she did that because Sophie put her in a position that, showed she could be a trustworthy ally, even to someone that she hadn't really worked with that much up until that point. So I feel like she would be worried to come back, that she's kind of like proved a lot of people wrong. I feel like she'd be worried to come back and potentially do that. Not that I think she would, but I don't know. What are you thinking here, Doug? Are we seeing Sophie again?
I reckon we would be able to see her again, because she showed that she's entertaining and has more to offer that we didn't see. Because I feel like when she was voted out with the idol, her game was like kind of coming up and showing to be pretty great, and it got cut off pretty quickly. And she like didn't get much of an edit in the episode. It kind of felt cut too early. I think she could come back again.
I hope we do see her again. I like Sophie. I didn't like her on her original season, but I liked her in Winners at War. So
I liked her in the first season. She was like a bunch of crazy ego.
She was just overshadowed, unfortunately.
Yeah. She was like the normal atheist perspective on things.
Yeah, it was weird because like I think Survivor would invite him back. I would invite her back. I think the fans would love to see her back. I think it would just come down to if she would want to. I saw that interview too, where she's like, "I'm done. I'm retired. I didn't even want to come out for 40 and to lose the way I did. I'm done with the game." So things can change, but I think I'm leaning more towards like, could she come back? Like according to Survivor producers, yes. Will she come back? I personally, I lean more towards no, just because I don't think that desire for her is there anymore. But
Yeah.
I guess we will see. Kim, Kim is probably the the person who I would have thought would come back after this, but after talking to her personally, after doing this top 100, I think there's 0% chance. I think she's kind of in
Yeah.
Sophie's boat, where she like was so content with her win, didn't want to come back, but it was the lure of like the all winner season. If I win, I'll be the. It's like if whoever won Winners at War would probably be considered the greatest of all time, no matter who it was.
Yeah.
That's the thing. So it's like, oh my gosh, all I got to do is win, which is obviously easier said than done. She would be considered the GOAT, and like that's alluring. The $2 million, which is actually $1.2 million after Obama gets it, is alluring. I think now Kim's got kids. She's a CEO. She's married. She's I think she like I said, she's a CEO of like I think it's like a wedding corporation or a bridal shop. I forget exactly what it is.
Yeah.
And she does
photography. Something. I'm not exactly sure what she does.
She was interior design before One World. I think she's moved to like doing that and maybe wedding stuff. She does two things, but she's a CEO.
I think she was a bridal shop owner in One World, because remember she talked about how she got divorced like before the season.
You're right.
And it was kind
you're
of
right.
funny.
Yeah, it was bridal shop owner. Now it's interior design. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Yeah.
What do you think, Doug? I mean, I would love to see Kim back. I'm a big Kim fan. I put her in the S category in our Survivor tier rank video over Boston Rob. What? I know. Go check it out. Doug, what do you think? Are we seeing Kim again?
I think it's interesting, like her journey throughout the season, because she started off kind of on the bottom, and people were like, "This isn't the controlling Kim we know. Why she's back and kind of struggling." And I think people picked on the move she made a lot, like the thing where she shared the idol with Sophie. People were like, "Why would you not share it with Tyson? But why would you give the other person who's on the outs with you access to an idol when like one of you are either going home next?" That would be a terrible decision.
Yeah.
But she managed to be able to like crawl her way back into majority, and then was like the last person up against Tony, who seemed to be trying to get him out. And once she was gone, it felt almost a bit like a foregone conclusion that Tony was winning. So I think looking back on it, she kind of redeemed herself, and people see her as the person who almost changed the direction of the end game, that like just missed out. So she kind of still has the opportunity to come back, and people will still be interested in her coming back as well.
Yeah, I certainly wouldn't mind her coming back, but like I said, from what I've heard, from what she told Adam and what I've seen in her interviews, I know she's not really interested, but you never know.
Never know. Another guy that's kind of in a similar boat with Kim. Obviously, he lost his first season and then came back and played one of the most dominant seasons we've ever seen in Survivor Cambodia, where he played a perfect game, swept the jury. Had a good showing in Winners at War. One of those guys who played a pretty similar game. Like I actually watched Cambodia while Winners at War was airing, which was cool because I was like, Jeremy's literally playing like the same game. Like, he's getting hot at the same moments. He grabbed his meat shield at the same time. Like, it was almost identical, and like no one was noticing. At least the edit wasn't showing anyone noticing. It's unfortunate that he went home. I would love to see Jeremy come back. He's one of my top 5 all-time favorite players. But I feel like we have to say this with every person. He's got kids now. So I just don't know if he would come back unless it was like the best of the best season, which if it was the best of the best season, I feel like he would be a lock to get invited at least. Would he do it? I think it's just too far away to know now. But what do you think, Doug? You think we see Jeremy again anytime soon?
we've seen quite a bit of him recently, so maybe a bit of a break.
Mm.
But I imagine in even like 10 years, once his kids are a bit older, people want to see him again. If Survivor's still happening then.
Yeah. Yeah, I think he would come back. Like if I had to guess for Jeremy, I'd say yes, but I think it would be at least 6-7 years from now.
Yeah.
If I had to guess.
Yeah. I
Philly
hope he would
Daddy
come
101, what are you thinking here?
I would hope that he would come back. Like I said, you can't really. It's hard to. He's not a very public person, with
Yeah.
his intentions on Survivor, so it's kind of harder for us to tell. Because he doesn't do as much interviews as Kim does or Sophie even. But yeah, I think they would invite him back, and I hope he would accept. But it would have to be a big season.
Yeah. So if Wendell was someone who got a bad edit that didn't seem too upset with it in the long run, and would love to come back and prove everyone why he's not the villain, Nick is a total opposite. He was very, very upset with his edits. He told me personally in our Top 100 interview, he said it in multiple interviews, I think he's pretty mad at Survivor. I think his edit was even worse than Wendell's because the villain edit, Boston Rob's a villain, one of the most beloved players. Russell's a villain, one of the most beloved players. But Nick was like the annoying, like pest of the season, according to the what the edit showed us. So I think he's mad. He just got married. He's a real estate guy now. He's buying land and buying property. I'm sure he's going to have kids at some point. I think if we did see Wendell back, it would be a while from now. I don't know if he would be invited for like a greatest of all time, best of the best type season. I don't know if he would quite fit that mold on that sort of season. So if I had to guess personally, I think Nick, I think he would be invited back maybe, but I don't know if he would. I think we're done with Nick.
Yeah,
I'd like
might
to see him back though.
He seemed pretty visibly pissed, and he voiced how pissed he was at the edit. But I still liked him. I don't know. Is that an unpopular opinion? I still liked him at Winners at War.
I like him. I wish we saw more of him.
Yeah.
Because like the move when Tony convinced him to turn on Sophie, Nick was like, according to him, and I forget who else told me this, Kim maybe, Nick was like just as big a part of that move as Tony was. We just didn't see that because they wanted Nick to seem like the little sidekick, hyena, annoying guy, and they wanted Tony to be like that. That was when Tony came out of his shell in Winners at War. They wanted that moment to be all Tony. So they painted that as Nick just kind of going along with the plan. But what do you think about Nick, Doug? Are we going to see Nick again?
We have seen people who like badmouth their edit of their season before, and they still return. So it's not like he's burnt bridges completely. I don't think he had a great showing based on the edit. And he stayed around a bit longer than Wendell. So I feel like people remember how he was this season more than with Wendell, because Wendell was out fairly early. So people remember Wendell more as Ghost Island. But I feel like with Nick, people remember that he was just shown as kind of a joke. It was it was frustrating to watch, but you never got his perspective on things. He was always there in the background doing something, like creeping in conversation, but you didn't actually hear what he was thinking. But depending on what the situation is and what he's doing in life, what they're looking for, I think he could come back.
Yeah, I feel like I wanted to touch on what he said before. I don't feel like he would fit the mold for like a best of all time season. But if they did do a battle of the eras, I think he would be great as a representative of kind of like the era of like the Advantage era. I think he would be a great representative for that season. Denise is our next person. she was another surprise to come back, but I think it was cool seeing her, and I think she played a very similar game. It was cool to see her get far. The Queen Slayer move was probably the greatest move she ever did, so that was cool.
I loved it.
I think she's very content with her legacy and her career. I think she would be invited back just because she's. It seems like we're running out of winners that are kind of like the more reserved winners. Everyone's a bit more, flashy. She's not a very flashy player, which is not a complaint. But I don't think she's. I mean, she stated that she's retired in interviews. She doesn't even like doing Survivor. Even when she won Philippines, like you never saw her on talk shows or interviews or podcasts. She's not very active. She's sort of active a little bit. She's getting more into social media now, but I think we've seen Denise. I don't think she has that much more to offer for the show. If she couldn't win Winners at War, I don't think she can win again at this point. Is my opinion. But what do you guys think? What do you think about Denise?
I think she kind of gave up by the end a little bit. Like it seemed like the game just took a toll on her, and she was kind of over it. Like that moment in Tribal where she's like, "I'm just done. Like I've had enough of like the chit chat and the everybody whispering and the strategy." So I don't think she even in Philippines she didn't enjoy the hardcore strategy every 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think she wants to come back again because she kind of seemed over it by the end of Winners at War.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm in the same boat as Doug. Yeah, I mean, you could kind of see the life drain out as the last days approached, and so I don't think she'd come back. I don't know if I even want to see her back. I mean, I think we've seen what we need from Denise.
Mm-hmm. Yep. If there's one new schooler that's clearly a new schooler that I would say there's 0% chance of coming back, it's Ben. I think he has a mix of every reason not to come back. One, I think he was upset with his edit. Two, I think he was very upset with how he played. Three, I think he was just so exhausted and it took so much out of him. He's so distancing. Like he did no interviews. I mean, unless it was required contractual interviews, he did nothing. Like he hasn't been that much on social media unless it's his Instagram showing off him on ski trips and stuff. I think Ben is so just done with Survivor at this point. And I don't think there's a fan calling for him to really come back either. I think a lot of people thought he wasn't a deserving winner. In Heroes, Hustlers, and Healers, and I don't think, even though he made it pretty far in Winners at War, Survivor, Call of Duty, I don't think it helped his legacy that much. So personally, I've never talked to him personally, but everyone that I have talked to in Winners at War is Ben, no chance. Yes, you could say anything can happen, but from what I'm hearing, Ben is no chance. But and I personally would be okay with that. Not that I'm a Ben hater by any means, but what are you guys thinking about Sir Ben?
I kind of am a Ben hater.
Okay.
Well, for one, he acts like Survivor's poisonous nowadays. And then also, I don't know. I never really liked this game. I don't know. I know this opinion might be unpopular, but I think he might have helped Sarah by staying in the game. Just because her voting him off, it helped her short term, but she could have used him later on. Which I don't see how that helped. I don't see how that helped Sarah. I just thought he was quitting.
I don't know if you guys thought he quit, basically.
Oh yeah,
I think he just gave up.
Yeah.
And the route of you ask people to vote you out, people say it's not a quitter, but in my eyes, just a quitter. Like somebody
I
like
agree.
Jen Hart. If you basically just say, I don't really care anymore, you can vote me out, that's quitting to me.
Yeah, I took Ben's as more of a quit than Sandra. Easily. Um, I think when Natalie returned and told everyone what the jury was thinking, he realized how people were perceiving him this season. Because remember, before he gave up his thing for Natalie or for Sarah, um, he was also kind of like a villain on the season. He was kind of like he kept saying he was a lion when everyone was like, "Dude, you're definitely a hyena." And he had this weird rivalry with Jeremy where he like wouldn't even let him talk. At least that's what the edit shows us. I hear that was played up a bit on the edit. They actually got along just fine on the island, but they needed that rivalry to have to be there. And when he realized how he was probably going to be perceived, he was like, okay, what can I do that's going to change everyone's opinion about me? And I'll just flip it. And so he was like, oh, I'll just give up my game because I'm not going to win anyway. No one's going to vote for me. I'll give up my game to help Sarah. That'll earn me some brownie points. Which I mean, I guess it did. Like, I don't think Ben left. Like he was kind of the villain throughout, and I don't think he left Winners at War as like I don't perceive him as a villain. So I guess it worked in the sense that it made him more likable. But yeah, I don't know. Do you guys, if you guys had a guess, is he coming back or?
I see him not as a villain though. I
Yeah, I
think
don't
he's
either.
somebody who's a nice dude who plays very emotionally, and
Mhm.
people who are like into the game, it's frustrating to see him kind of like not consider certain options which would be better for his game just
Yes.
because he's angry at Jeremy or he's angry at Chrissy in his first season.
Mhm.
So I don't think anyone wants to see him again because I don't think he's going to grow in that sense that he's going to do the same thing again, probably.
Mhm. Yeah. Our last final tribal council member is going to be Sarah. She's definitely going to take a break. Like if we do see Sarah back, it's not going to be anytime soon because she's got a kid now. I think she maybe has another one on the way, or she moved into a new house. She's married. She was already married before this season, but I think she's very settled with life. I wouldn't mind seeing her on like a Go Out with a Bang, Greatest of the Great season, or a Battle of the Eras, because I think her game I loved, even though I don't like Game Changers as a season that much, I loved her win. And I think she has utilized like the advantages better than any winner, her and Nick. So I would love to see her also on like a Battle of the Era season. I think she would come back. I just don't think it would be soon. I don't know if it would be like 10 years from now. Like we had to wait for Ethan or like an Amber to come back. But I do think it would be kind of a similar boat as Jeremy, where it'd be like 5 or 6 years. But I mean, if Parvati could come back for a fourth time and Sandra come back for a fourth time, I think Sarah's for sure going to come back for a fourth time. What do you guys think?
Yeah, 100%. I agree. I mean, not much else to be said. She was probably a fire making challenge away from being maybe
The greatest of all time.
So yeah.
Yeah. I always find it hard to tell if she's underrated or overrated. People seem to have different views on that. Because if you look at her Game Changer, like her game, a lot of it was a bit whitewash and you didn't tell a lot of the actual villainous moves she made.
Yeah.
Like the thing with getting Brad Culpepper to like give her wedding ring or whatever it was. Moves like that, which sounds a lot more intense and interesting, but we didn't really see it. We just saw kind of very plain confessionals outlining her game. But then on the other hand, there have been moments where she shows to be a bit like doesn't see the big picture of things and doesn't realize that she's kind of playing into Tony's hand sometimes in this season. So it's hard to tell what people see. I think you can ask anybody and have a different view on her.
Yeah, Yeah, I agree. Our next person who came in third place, third place was Michelle. Her coming in third averages her 2 spots as second, um, which is a feat no one else has, unless you consider Natalie. But technically, Natalie got voted out first, so I don't consider it. But there's a huge reason, in my opinion, why Michelle would come back, and a huge reason why she wouldn't come back. The reason she wouldn't come back would be because she's played 2 games where she made it to the end, and I feel like she's like, why would I risk playing again and coming in like third, or being voted out third, and then like that statistic, that record I have of like the highest average finish of anyone who's played more than once would be ruined. I think she's like in the history books in like a good place, like average wise. The reason why she would come back is because I feel like Michelle is one of those people where no matter what season she's on, she always is going to have a good chance of winning because she's such a good social player. So when you think of that, it's like, why wouldn't you come back and play again? If I had to guess for Michelle, I'd say yes. I think she enjoys playing the game, enjoys being out there, even though she's always kind of paranoid in a stressful environment. I think she's just so good at the game. I think she's one of the best social winners, not only of this era, but possibly that we've ever seen. So if I had to vote for Michelle, I'd say yes. Don't think it'd be, you know what? I'd even say sometime soon. I think Michelle's maybe even in the same boat as Adam. I could see her playing in like, 45, 44 even.
Yeah.
So I think Michelle's a yes if I had to pick. And I think the fans like her too.
Yeah, fans like her. I think she'll come back. I think she'd come back sooner than later as well. All the fan casts of Heroes versus Villains have Michelle leading the Heroes tribe and Wendell leading the Villains tribe. So, the fans wanted to bring her back if she wants to come back.
Yeah.
Yeah,
what do you think,
I
Doug?
definitely think an option open for her to come back. And she brings something which the new school often don't bring, because I feel like you see her emotions a lot, and like she overthinks things sometimes and always thinking about how things are perceived. And often you see the new school just being like, this advantage will do this, and I'm gonna have this conversation to build my resume. And it's kind of hard to get their actual views on things, which Michelle is good at.
Yeah. For sure. 2 more left. We got our second place finisher, Natalie Anderson, who of course was the first voted off, but worked her way all the way back on Edge of Extinction and returned to the game, finishing second place with six votes, I think she got. To Tony's 12.
4, right?
Only 4? Oh, you're right. It's 4. Tyson, Ethan, Parvati, and Jeremy. I knew it was an even number, 12 to 4, yeah. Or whatever it was. I don't know. Anyway, Natalie's a tough one because I feel like she obviously is a good player, even though she was the first person voted out of the season. She's obviously a good Survivor player. She won San Juan del Sur, which had some good competition. And obviously Jeremy played that season, Wentworth, Baylor. There was some good competition, and she won. And she won because of things she did. Like it was very clearly a win that she put herself in. Didn't ride anyone's coattails. Had the flashy moves. Had the kind of behind the scenes moves. Did a little bit of everything. She's a challenge beast. One of the greatest female challenge beasts, or I'd even say any challenge beast, male or female, that the show has seen. She was just on the challenge. So. Again, I feel like with every person we bring up, we have to mention like they're starting a family because she's married. I believe she obviously, as you saw on the challenge, she had an unfortunate miscarriage with what would have been, I think that would have been her first child. So that was obviously unfortunate. So hopefully the future of her and her family, brings happiness. But for now, obviously, I think she's going to take a pretty big step back from the show, would she come for like a best of the best season? That's gonna be tough because, like, of course, she has winner under her belt, and she also has second place in Winners at War under her belt. But is she like one of the greatest of all time? That one's up for debate. But a Battle of the Era season, maybe. I feel like hers is so tough. I don't want to give her a yes or no. I didn't want to give anyone a 50-50, but if I had to give anyone a 50-50, it would be Natalie. But I don't know. What are you guys thinking about Natalie? Hers is tougher than I thought it would be. Now that I'm kind of saying it out loud, because I think coming into this, I was going to say no, but as I say it out loud, it's kind of switched my opinion like in real time. What do you guys think about Natalie?
I think no. I don't think she'll come back unless some type of special season. Don't even know if I would put her in a best of the best season, but maybe like an old school, new school thing. I don't know. I don't know. I feel like we've got everything we can from Natalie. I mean, does she have anything else to offer? What do you think, Doug?
Yeah, I think we've seen pretty much everything from her. But if she does come back, she should not be in the same tribe as Jeremy.
True. Okay, our last one, Tony Vlachos, I believe it's pronounced, the winner of Winners at War, our only two-time winner that deserved it. No, I'm joking. He is obviously one of our two-time winners. I say yes. I mean, obviously, if there was going to be a best of the best season, he would be the first person invited because he is the best of the best. Even if he loses the best of the best season, which he probably would, because at this point, Tony returning would have the biggest target on his back, like Curly Daddy said, of any player that could return from this point on. Even if like someone like Russell ends up winning or Boston Rob wins a second time, I don't think anything will ever top winning a Winners at War unless it is like that final go out with a bang thing.
Yeah.
So I think Tony's going to come back. Don't think it's going to be anytime soon. I think Tony would only come back if it was like the last season of Survivor. That's the only way I could see him come back. But
Only the last one.
yeah. But I think he will come back for
another.
this one.
I think he'd come back for another big one, like I could even see him on a Heroes Villains, like another big one like that, or some type of huge all-star type season where everybody has a target. Because while his target may be the biggest, I mean, I still can see him going far and maneuvering his way around somehow. Don't know how, but you'd have to ask Tony. I don't have that kind of mind power. So, but
and
yeah,
he loves it out there. He loves it out there.
Yeah, so I think he'll come back as well. Maybe not soon, but hopefully not far.
Mm-hmm.
Even if he comes back and he does poorly, like he'll never be boring. So he's always going to provide something. Like in Game Changers when he was second out, like it was still very fun in that first 2 episodes. So if it's always going to be an option to him to come back regardless of what's happening, it's just up to him whether he wants to or not.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, Tony's in that category where, like, if he calls Survivor and he's like, hey, can you put me on a season? Like, they're going to put him on any season he wants to be put on, whether it's Heroes and Villains or it's something like Redemption Island or South Pacific or Guatemala where it's, like, just 2 returning people. How cool would it be? Would you guys want to see a South Pacific Redemption Island type season where they each have a captain, where it's Tony on one side, Sarah on the other one?
I hate captains so much. I really do. And I feel like you're never gonna get an experience like you did with Boston Rob again.
But could you see Survivor doing that though?
Yes, and then they ruin it.
I could also see them on an Island of the Idols type thing.
Okay, that's fair.
But I guess technically that doesn't count as playing. So I think Tony is for sure going to come back. I think that, yeah, I just think whatever, if he calls Jeff, he's like, put me on the next season, Jeff will throw him on. He's great TV. Yeah, he's in that boat. Yeah, That's all 20. That's all of our winners. We blazed through them. Hour went by, hour 15 minutes. Good time. Yeah, hopefully we see them all back. Hopefully, in some capacity, we get to see all the players we like back. I do think Survivor needs to shift towards letting some newbie seasons come into play. I think we've had a bit too many returning player seasons, and we need to have some new blood. Because even I hate the argument of, there's only one or two new people. Well, yes, but that kind of shifts all the attention to them. Like, there hasn't been that many people that have come from mixed seasons of half newbie, half. Rick Devens, I guess, probably is going to come back. Eric, I guess, came back for Caramoan, even though he wasn't really a fan favorite. I love Eric. He became a fan favorite on Caramoan, I think. And of course, he has one of the greatest moments in Survivor history where, if you guys didn't know, he actually gave up his idol. I don't know if you guys knew that.
Really? He did that?
Yeah.
I had no idea.
So we'll see.
Again,
We'll
you
see
remember
what
more
happens.
about the moment than anything he actually did, really. It's
Mhm.
like he gave his idol away. And when he came back with Caramoan, he was basically invisible for most of his season. It was all, he gave his idol away. He won't make the same mistake again. So he won't do anything, really.
Yes. And on Caramoan, he did not give his idol away. So
Yes,
that
he
would have been
got
fun.
removed.
Well, he gave it to Andrea, technically. I don't know if that counts. You remember when he found the idol and then he didn't want to have it?
Oh, true.
It was like,
He's nuts. That guy's crazy.
But it was Andrew's clue, wasn't it? So maybe
yeah, but
thought that
he
was-
had it in his hands first, technically. So if he wanted to, he
Yeah.
could have kept it himself.
True. Okay.
Oh, well.
So he gave the idol away twice. He has the record. But yeah, that's Winners at War. Thanks everyone for watching. We got so you just saw an interview with Clay Jordan last week. Coming up, we have interviews with Johnny Fairplay, with Kathy Vavrick O'Brien, with Rick Devens. A bunch of interviews coming up. We're trying to do an interview every Saturday from now until season 41, which comes out September. Hoping that's what we're hearing. We'll see if that happens. Doug, you got any videos you're working on that you want to preview? Tell us about.
I'm currently working on a video on the Yellman Dreams situation and how it looks today. So working on that at the moment, aiming to post a video every month on random topics, like analyzing certain things. I have other plans to do a video on people who quit the show and analyzing the circumstances behind it, whether they should be deemed a quitter or whether there's justifiable reasons for what happened. So yeah, I like to look behind the scenes and look in depth on things, and check it out if you want to.
Awesome.
Yes,
Very cool.
indeed.
Very cool. And we will also be having the Survivor Specialist on soon to cast Heroes versus Villains 2 live. Anything else? Did I miss anything, Gideon? What else? Do we got anything else?
Nah, you covered it. I think you covered everything that we got going. Pretty stacked schedule. So yeah, thanks for coming on, Doug. Love your channel.
Oh,
Yes.
thank you.
Yes, thanks so much, Doug. Everyone have a blessed rest of your week. It would be even more blessed if you subscribe, though.